My have family live in Spain. Yeah, it's close. 5 hour. Here. My sons, parents, my wife. I don't know. I like this.
They start young in this gym, huh?
Yeah, it's future Ukrainian judo. Olympic, yeah. Olympic future.
What did you tell him?
Kirill, like a strong, yeah?
Oh my god. Like what, son? Boom. Boom. Spit going flying. Uppercut from hell. Oh god. Woo! Oh my goodness. As you can see, Rico is a bad mother shut your mouth, right? He just is. But a lot of what you're seeing there from Rico is initiated with his kicks, with his knees. There, you know, his hands work just fine. Don't get it mistaken. He would knock out a lot of boxers, but the heavyweight champion of the world in Oleksandr Usyk.
Attractive option. I had also seen like kind of rumblings that Verhoeven might have been signing with Misfits, which no me gusta. I'm not in favor of that. This is, again, I don't know what this is because I don't think any of us really think Verhoeven's got a shot. He could make it interesting. He is younger. He's pretty big. He's going to be, I think, a little bit taller than Usyk. He's going to weigh a little bit more than Usyk. I mean, who knows what he comes in for this bout, but traditionally he's been a little bit bigger, I think. A smaller end of the natural heavyweights, but I don't know if he could ever have done really well. Maybe he could have done cruiserweight if kickboxing was big enough, but I still think he's going to have, something of a youth and perhaps an athleticism advantage. But no one really thinks he's going to win. Still, I get why he went this direction, and I think you probably get that as well. Also, the location's kind of interesting, right? They're going to do it in front of the pyramids of Giza. I have been to the pyramids of Giza. I actually went inside of them. They were this was many years ago, 30 plus years ago. It's an interesting sight to see. I don't know how readily that space is usable for a big fight.
Away from yourself, what do you make of the fight between Oleksandr Usyk and Rico Verhoeven?
I mean, I think Rico's getting wrote off.
Did you come across him?
Listen, I've been training with Rico for the last 10 years, so I'm obviously pretty Rico biased. Rico's a good friend of mine. But he's a big man. He's had a lot of fights. Fair enough that he's fighting a different sport. But he can, if he hits him, it could be over. Do I think that Rico's a better boxer than Usyk? Absolutely not. I'm not saying that at all. But I think that he's getting wrote off and he's definitely got a chance of winning.
Oleksandr Usyk versus Rico Verhoeven is one of the strangest heavyweight fights we have seen in a long time. A boxing champion taking on a kickboxing champion with a world title involved has surprised a lot of people in the sport. Some fighters and experts are excited about how big the event is, while others question whether this fight should even be happening. There are strong opinions from different sides. Here is what a few fighters and analysts had to say about this unusual matchup.
Sticking with the champ because he's the man, and that's what they're doing. They're sticking with the man that they recognize as the best heavyweight fighter in the world.
Yeah, but don't recognize Rico Verhoeven in that same breath. Create a different belt. Create a belt that brings the
There's too many belts around.
No, I mean for this one-off fight. I don't agree the WBC. I agree with the event. I agree with monumental matchmaking being made in terms of the greatest kickboxer ever against one of the greatest heavyweights in history. I rank him about number 7 as the great heavyweights in history.
Ade Oladipo has an understandable approach to this fight, but what's interesting is how he goes about explaining it rather than just choosing a winner. For Ade, the key to the fight is levels and what each man is used to. He sees Usyk as being used to the pressure, the style, and the level of fights, whereas Verhoeven is stepping into something completely new. It's not just the rules of the sport, it's the pace, the reaction, and the control Usyk has on the distance. He thinks Usyk will control the fight, not get caught up in anything messy, particularly early on, when Verhoeven may try to use his size and physicality.
Yeah, it wasn't his best, and I just wonder if he was boxing to the level and preparing to the level of his opponent. If that is Usyk, I think we know that he's in better shape. Maybe he's a few pounds lighter. That's a bet. But ultimately, he knows he's in there against, at best, a B- C level fighter. And I think he treated him like that in the second and third rounds. It was interesting to look at ringside, and there were so many fighters there wanting that Caballero shot. Tony Yoka was there, Okoli was there, Hrgovic was there. So he's now almost being the hunted as well. He's the hunter, but he's now almost being hunted. And I think they were pleasantly surprised by the fan base. So it's not just a case of Caballero's an unbeaten fighter who's worthy of his shot against Oleksandr Usyk. He now brings something to the table. He's now like, oh, look what I can do. I can bring the fan base. We can sell out a stadium here. Look what I bought. I sold this place out in a week for Damian Neba, who no one knew.
He also discusses Rico's strengths, size, and experience in kickboxing, all of which exist, but Ade doesn't think they directly relate to this type of fight. His take is that Rico might find his way in there, particularly if he can close the distance and get in close to mix things up, but keeping it going like that against an opponent such as Usyk is another matter entirely. Of course, as time goes by, he anticipates that the difference in boxing skills will begin to reveal itself as Usyk stays calm and slowly begins to assert his authority in any fight.
Give me a big name in Germany and we will do 30 to 40,000 just like that. So I think that's why he puts himself, I think, in the perfect position for if Usyk Wilder collapses, and I'm hearing that fight has a bit of a problem, then I think Caballero puts himself in great position for it.
Frank Warren wasn't really buying into this whole idea of Oleksandr Usyk fighting Rico Verhoeven. He kept referring back to the fact that contenders are waiting, ones that have been doing the work and have been waiting, and therefore this idea of Usyk fighting a kickboxer is not right to him. It's safe to say that he's not taking this too seriously. He kept referring to Ajit Kabayel, saying that this is a man who has been waiting and has been doing the work, and therefore, this is the fight that needs to happen. So, when you talk about Usyk and Rico, I don't think Frank is necessarily breaking this down and taking sides or anything like that. He's referring to the idea not being even a priority.
He's got his fight in Egypt against the kickboxer. After that, he has to defend his WBC title against Ajit Kabayel, who's been very patient and has been active. Fought early, as I said earlier, in January. He has to have that fight. He has to do that fight. If he doesn't do it, then he has to vacate the title or he'll be stripped. And then he can fight one of those guys. Not a problem. They're with us. We can make these fights happen. But the most important thing he needs to focus on, he's got to defend that BC title against Kabayel.
What do you think, though, Frank? You must have a view on Usyk fighting a kickboxer.
What do I think?
Yeah.
I don't like all that stuff. I mean, I'm not a big fan of all that stuff, you know.
But from the WBC point of view, Caballel's been sitting in the wings, deserves his shot.
It's wrong. It's wrong.
Yeah.
He should have been fighting Caballel.
But you put Fury in with Ngannou.
Yeah, I did put him in.
So you've indulged in it.
Sorry?
You've indulged in it.
I've indulged in something where some serious money was offered for a fight for a lot of money. And as I said at the time, it would be exciting, and it was exciting.
Like Frank, Wade Plemons is kind of split in two. On one side, he actually doesn't hate the fight. He sees it as something fun, something you tune in for, not something you break down like a serious title fight. He even compares it to those crossover fights we've already seen, where it's more about the moment than the sport itself. But then the other side of it is where he clearly has a problem. For him, Rico hasn't earned that spot in boxing, especially not at heavyweight against the champion. So even though he's fine watching it, he doesn't like what it says about how things are being run. He brings up guys waiting in line and how those fights make more sense competitively.
Heavyweight champion of the world doing a crossover fight. That has become the norm in boxing, so I'm not so mad at the fight. In fact, I think the fight is going to be a fun one. I think Usyk's probably going to wash Rico, but hey, you never know. Francis walked in there, knocked down Tyson, jiggled his balls in his face, and ended up almost beating him. So yeah, I'll watch this. It's an entertainment fight. It's a crossover fight, and while I think that Oleksandr Usyk has bigger fish to fry in the heavyweight division when KBL is a mandatory, I thought, for Oleksandr Usyk. There is, for other sanctioning bodies like the WBO, you have Fabio Wardley and Daniel Dubois. You have that fight about to happen, so the winner of that is going to, I thought, fight Usyk. And then you have Tyson Fury waiting in the wings. There's Moses Italma waiting in the wings. There's a lot of odd stuff happening here with the sanctioning bodies. And I'm going to tell you this now. This is what leaves a sour taste in my mouth about this fight. The sanctioning bodies are going to, and they already are, digging their own graves with stuff.
His point is that Rico is dangerous, no doubt about that, but a lot of that danger is coming from weapons that Rico won't be able to utilize here. Once you take those away, it's a completely different fight, and that's where Usyk has a massive advantage. He's leaving a little room for surprises based on what we've seen in other crossover fights, but all in all, he believes that Usyk will handle it if he comes in prepared. So, to him, it's competitive only if something unexpected happens, or it's more of a showcase for Usyk than anything else.
Oh my goodness. As you can see, Rico is a bad mother shut your mouth, right? He just is. But a lot of what you're seeing there from Rico is initiated with his kicks, with his knees. There, his hands work just fine. Don't get it mistaken. He would knock out a lot of boxers, but the heavyweight champion of the world in Oleksandr Usyk, I don't know. I don't think this is going to be very competitive. Maybe it will be. I said the same thing about Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, and Francis Ngannou came in and showed up Tyson Fury in his own backyard, and we haven't seen someone from the sport of kickboxing, exclusively kickboxing, come over and try their hand in boxing. After watching Tyson and Francis, it might be the right option to strip Usyk. People aren't going to like that because he's done a lot for the heavyweight division. He's one of the greatest of all time, but
much like other experts, Luke Thomas also leans into the problem with the belt being involved, as this is where things start to get out of hand and mess with the way things are supposed to work. From his perspective, giving someone a title shot who is coming into this for what can only be assumed to be their second ever boxing match just doesn't make any sense. Of course, he also doesn't look away from the other side of things. He understands why both men are taking this fight. It's big money, big stage, and probably an easy night for Usyk compared to some of the contenders that are waiting.
I don't have a strong reaction to it, but I have seen some strong reactions to it from two different groups. One, if you're on the MMA side of things, I tend to see a little bit more enthusiasm about this. I think most of the folks on the MMA side that I've seen, again, it's very anecdotal, I've not run research, they seem to like it quite a bit. On the boxing side, they're real unhappy. They don't like this one at all. So there's a big divide between the two. Why? Well, number one, as I just mentioned, the WBC title is up for grabs. These sanctioning bodies, bro, they're just so pathetic. By what reason would you ever grant Rico Verhoeven? By the way, this will be his second pro fight in boxing ever. He has one prior to this. A world title opportunity. It just makes no sense whatsoever. And I think a lot of boxing fans, there were times where, by the way, the WBO was threatening to strip Usyk, and there were questions about what kind of fight was he going to take. Personally, I feel like the guy has earned an opportunity to go get a payday. There are other fights for him to have taken, and what I'm seeing is that the boxing fans kind of wanted him to go down that road. They don't care about him fighting a guy who is, in all likelihood, hopelessly overmatched.
What he's saying is that fights like this are now the biggest fights, even if they're not necessarily the most important. Old names, crossover fights, strange matchups, and in a way, that's more important than the fights that can actually help to further the division. So in this case, it's not necessarily about whether or not Usyk wins the fight, because everybody knows that anyway, but more about what it says for the future of the sport. Dave Allen looked at the Usyk vs. Rico fight from a very traditional boxing point of view, and he was pretty clear that he did not really like the matchup. He explained that even though Rico Verhoeven is a great kickboxer and someone he has actually met and even shared some sparring with, the problem is not about Rico's ability as a fighter. The issue for him is the sport itself. Allen also pointed out that the bigger concern is what it means for the rest of the heavyweight division. When a champion takes a fight like this, it keeps other contenders waiting. Fighters who are actually competing in boxing and working their way up the rankings miss their chance while something like this happens. That is why he believes the fight would make much more sense as an exhibition instead of a real title defense. From his perspective, Usyk has had an incredible career and has already proven himself at the top, so if he wants to do crossover events and make money, that is his choice. Ariel Helwani gave his views on the fight as well. He was not picking Rico to win against Oleksandr Usyk. He referred to Oleksandr Usyk as arguably the best fighter in the world and the best heavyweight of the era, but he felt that the problem was that people had not treated Rico as the fighter he is. But at the same time, he felt that the fight might have been more popular if the opponent had been Francis Ngannou. Ariel, however, did not criticize Usyk for choosing to fight, because he believes that Usyk has earned the right to do something different. Usyk has been in a fight with everybody. He has been in rematches and he has been in title fights. Therefore, if he wants to fight in a huge show in Egypt, Ariel is not against Usyk. The real question, however, is whether the fans wanted to see the fight in the first place and whether the promoters read the situation right. That is how some of the fighters and experts are looking at this unusual matchup between Usyk and Rico. Some think it should not be a real title fight, others are more focused on how big and different the whole event is. Either way, it has definitely got people talking. A top boxer facing a kickboxing champion for the heavyweight title is not something we normally see, so there are still a lot of questions about how it will actually play out in the ring. One thing is certain, everyone will be watching to see what happens on fight night. Let us know in the comments below who you think wins, Usyk or Rico.